JB here, October 15th, 320 on this fine Tuesday. Hope everyone's doing outstanding. Talk really quick about the markets, names I added, sold today, and go from there. Take a look at the S&P. The SPY just took uh, a further move to the downside after the 130 hour. It's just been melting and then accelerated a little before 3 o'clock. And we're down here, tested 578, so now we're at 579. No news or catalysts really to speak of. I mean, similar to yesterday's move, and yesterday was on low volume. What was today? And I'll have to wait till the end of the day to see the volume here, but the SPY volume looks lower than yesterday's at this point. But uh, I mean, obviously, volume's buyers and sellers, right? So volume doesn't, it does a little bit. It means how much interest there is in the market, right? But uh, yeah. Anyway, rants for other days. I always say rants for other days. But interesting, this little pull here. Unfortunately, the VIX is back over 20. So didn't want to have to worry about that, but here we are again, back over 20. And let me just see where the 10-year, because I didn't even pull that up. Of course, I can't get it on here. And oh, the 10-year's down today, but still 4.03%. So hopefully that gets under that 10. The 10-year gets under that four handle. But anyway, so choppy, and you can't really say double top. I mean, there's not much chart wise. You can say just we were extended over the upper Bollinger Band. Maybe that's some of it. And upper Bollinger Band was 582. We're substantially above that at the open, 584.90. Impressive move over the last week and a half. So I guess you mix that all together, and that's like how you can rationalize today's move. Obviously, as well. I mean, this morning, what I wouldn't say the comical part, but United Healthcare getting demolished after its earnings, and it's a major component of Dow, because when you look at the Dow, it's the way they weight the Dow. Just it doesn't make sense when you have a higher market cap stock valued less because the stock price, right? When the 30 components are weighted based on their share price as opposed to their capitalization, which doesn't make any sense whatsoever. But United Healthcare is down. Well, it's down 7% now, but the Dow is down less than the S&P and the Nasdaq. So you would think it would be the reverse. Anyway, we'll see how tomorrow plays out. We have Netflix earnings, Intuitive Surgical on Thursday. That's probably really the next somewhat, the data piece. This morning we have more bank earnings, and they were actually strong again. And I mean, so Goldman Spectacular was up at the open and reversed, but some of these other names just keep going. So yeah, for now I'm just chalking up to some profit taking. We had the Asia market selling off overnight, so that could be some of it as well. And hopefully find some support, whether this afternoon, tomorrow, and we could chop around and then start working back up to that 585 handle. Again, the VIX, kind of disappointing here. We were down 4 of the last 5 sessions, back under 20 finally, and now we're at 2070. So what can you do? And I always try and take the silver lining. Small caps, this will be third session in a row. They were up over 1% before. They're up 0.6%, well, at least the IWM. So if you're taking anything away from today's action, I think that bodes well, considering what's going on. So first, I'll talk about this. So I rarely do earnings trades. Well, I do, and a lot of times when I do earnings trades, I try and get calls or puts into before the event so that I can try and capture some premium build, and with the possibility of locking some or all before the earnings. And if I can lock some in to cover costs, then I'll ride into earnings. But ASML looked like a interesting setup, and I kind of used the parallels with Adobe's earnings, where they had this big, somewhat disappointment back in the spring. The stock tanked, sold off, and then the following quarter, it was as if like a relief quarter. Okay, it wasn't as bad, and then the stock rallied and recouped most of the gap. I thought there was going to be a similar setup, and the backdrop was set because they're like a recovery. Anyway. So sure enough, what happened? Someone hit a wrong button or scheduled their release wrong, and it hit the wires at about whatever the time was, 10:15, or of course right after I got the spec calls, and then it just got destroyed. And there was a beat, but their guidance is just rough. And then there was some cautious commentary from the the CEO on the letter, and they'll have a press conference tomorrow. They'll have a conference call tomorrow. I believe it's scheduled at 9 o'clock. But their earnings were supposed to come out overnight, or at least the morning time. I think they're a Dutch company, right? So then it spilled over into all the other names in AI space, the chip space. And NVIDIA was off the most in a couple of weeks, and a huge reversal from its highs this morning. AMD, Intel, and then spilled over into Dell and all the other names. And so the name I look at in one of my hedge trades that I always have, well, at least for the last 12 months or 8 to 12 months, Lamb Research has been one. They just had their split. So, I mean, it used to be a little more interesting when the stock was $760 and you get a put for 10 cents and it can go, if there's a huge move, they can be 10, 15, $20, but still a decent risk reward setup. So when ASML was down, 14%, Lamb Research was only down 4 or 5%. So I went and got some spec puts, and then it just melted. It was 80 and then just kept going down, down, and all the way down. It tested 76.13 just before. So I locked some in at 100% when I got a chance, and then locked some more in a little over 200%. And I think I'll just hold the rest. You start looking at the Lamb Research chart, and is it going to go back and test? It's like a triple bottom down at 70. I think it hit 71.20 back in August, 71.72 or so back at the start of September. So it almost looks like that's a magnet, and maybe we get some follow through tomorrow. If that happens, the 75 puts obviously going to be up, 10, 15, 20 times. And then if that doesn't hold, maybe make the case it goes to 69 or so. So I'll just hold the last that I have. I already locked some in to cover costs, locked some more in for profits, and now it's risk free, almost also as a hedge for the market. If we do get some continuation to tomorrow to the downside, Lamb Research probably going to sell off in tandem. So that's LRCX and ASML. And unfortunately, ASML, but the risk reward on doing option trades into earnings, you could do 10 earnings trades, 9 of them could go wrong. And then the 10th one, you can have a 10, 15 bagger, more than offsetting those other 9 trades. But that's the risk reward that when you do the earnings trades. I don't do them as often as I used to, unless I have a pretty good conviction whether I did due diligence or there's some other catalyst I think is going to push the stock. But all right, so that's that. Take a look at Roku today, and it's one of those. It's always frustrating because yesterday down 2%, no news, no catalyst. Today up over 3%, no news, no catalyst. Went all the way up to 79.43, and you start looking at the levels. 79.6, I think it was 79.65 was the highs back in September. Before it found some resistance. If that breaks, I think it just takes off like a rocket, mid 80s. So, I say as well, Netflix has their earnings on Thursday after the close, could certainly be some kind of sympathy move into that, going into that. Hopefully back over, $80 tomorrow. And considering the S&P was down nearly 1% before, to see Roku up 3%, I think that's a great sign. But it's done it before. Hopefully it doesn't do it again, but really like that. If it breaks 79.60, I think it's off to the races. That's Roku. Clear Secure. I keep looking for November strikes. There's a lot of spreads and call volume again today. So I'll probably be patient maybe into tomorrow. It's been on a monster run since it tested 30 back right at the start of October after its initial pull. My calls are back to life. They're almost flat. I probably could get out even or a little green before they were a little green. I'll just hold those. But obviously, the closer I get to Friday, the premiums are going to erode unless it really takes off and breaks over that 36 handle. But I'll just be patient. But I'll probably add some strikes on Clear Secure before the end of the week for sure. That's that. SE. So Asia market set off, not only China, but all of Asia. So because of that, China ADRs just getting destroyed today, wins getting destroyed. And then you look at any stock that has any exposure in Southeast Asia, those are getting sold off too. Who knows if there's geopolitical concerns now with Taiwan and China and all the other stuff that's going on. I don't know if that's weighing as well. But SE is down almost nearly 3%. Locked the last of my weeklies yesterday. Still have the 25 strikes into next week, and I'll just wait for the dust to settle. If it finds a bid or support tomorrow or the next day, maybe I'll look for those November strikes to play for earnings. Great story. And then Win, down nearly 5% today. Not much to add there, but once it finds some footing, I mean, I was mentioning this morning on the watch list that it seems like there's 5 or 6 analysts just over the last week or so that's raised their price target and even upgrade the stock. Just shocking, but I think some of it's just some consolidation from its move from under $80. And then last but not least here is Biogen. And Biogen was all the way up at 194 this morning, chopped down to 192, back up to 194 or 193 and change. And then it's just a slow little melt to just barely in the green right now. Really like that one for a move over $200. I was looking for November strikes. I'll probably add some depending on if it starts to break over 195, I'll look for those November strikes. 200-day moving average 197.74, so that's a big spot as well. I was looking at Visa and MasterCard again. I'm not gonna try and play with poison just yet, but those are names, especially if the market's weak. I'll be looking for some more put hedges. But it's surprising, my watch list, and I have on the main watch list, like, I don't know how many, 60? No, there's more than that, maybe 80 stocks on the main watch list. And it seems like I'm not, just off the top of the cuff here, you look at it and there's right down the line, it's like 50% of them are green and 50% of them are red. So, uh, yeah, you would, if you had told me that, I would say, oh, maybe the market's up a 1/4% or whatever. And here we are, the S&P and Nasdaq and Dow getting hammered, and small caps are up. So possibly some of the reasons, because most of the names that are in the green are probably from the small caps, but there's still big caps doing well. What, Apple hit all-time highs today. What are some of the other names up here? But anyway, that's it, folks. Let's have a great afternoon. I'll be back on audio later. Rock and roll.